Hello and welcome to a recorded version of Raw Sport Weekly, an NFL Super Bowl special. As this week is obviously the Super Bowl on Sunday, and yeah, I'm your head of Raw Sport, Josh Sim. Thank you so much for watching or listening along. If you're on the podcast, if you're listening to the podcast, and yeah, hope everyone's had a good sort of week so far. And if you're an NFL fan, hopefully you're looking forward to Sunday. And if you're not an NFL fan and just sort of want to see what the spectacle is in the game and sort of learn, hope you enjoy the game as well. Before I bring in, we've assembled a great sort of team of experts to talk about the game. People who know a lot more than the casual Seahawks fan and your host here. We've got obviously in the video description and the podcast description as well as our social media stuff, so you can follow all that on Instagram, Twitter, etc. And yes, we didn't do a quarantine stream last Saturday due to just me being busy, but we do have a sort of bonus quarantine stream that we did this time last week about Chelsea and Lampard being sacked and Thomas Tuchel now being in the job. You can watch that back. We'll try and make it available as a podcast as well. And hopefully we should get quarantine stream back at some point on Saturday. But yeah, just keep an eye on our socials and for all the content that's coming for the rest of this term until the next person takes over as head of sport. But anyway, let's bring on all my guests. So we'll start off with we'll bring on someone we had a few weeks ago actually to talk about the conference finals in the NFL, and that was Curtis, who joins me now as well. Curtis, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, going well. Excited for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and we're excited to have you back, as well as this next person who we haven't seen in a while, but obviously plays for the Warwick Wolves, and we've had him on a couple of times, and also the winner of the Raw Sport Warwick Wolves Fantasy League, Jack South. How are you doing, mate?
Hi, I'm doing all right, thanks. I'm hoping to maintain my prestige, as I believe the last time I was on here, I predicted this exact Super Bowl. So
you did, actually. That is actually amazing that you had that foresight all those months ago in this kind of crazy season that it's been. And of course, we've got a very special guest, someone obviously Raw Sport alumni, former head of Raw Sport, former station man, program controller of Raw 1251 AM. I caught myself there. And NFL enthusiastic, who he hosts his own NFL podcast, Tanking Heads. Ed Farrar joins us. Thank you so much for coming on, Ed.
Mate, no problem. It's great to chat. It's lovely to chat. And it's good to see that the mantle's being held with the head of sport nicely. It's going well.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, I sort of just introduced your podcast, and we've got the social medias for everyone that we could Twitter-wise. Do you want to just give people a flavor of what your podcast is? It's a predominantly NFL one, but focus more on the draft, at least, and looking and doing mock drafts and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, so I think talking about things like the playoffs, it doesn't come from a real place. So what I really focus on a lot of the time is the really bad NFL teams. I've talked about the Jets a lot, obviously the Jaguars, the Bengals, and I like what I love about the NFL more than anything is, yes, the football's entertaining. I love watching it. The playoffs are great, but I like the fact that you can be a fan of the worst team in the league, and you know that in 3 years' time you could be a playoff contender because of the way it works, because of the draft. So yeah, I focus a lot on the draft. My big focus at the moment is trying to work out how the Cincinnati Bengals can fix the worst defensive line in football. And yeah, going through a load of player prospects at the moment. So yeah, I'm kind of going through a few mock drafts, and I'm doing my quarterback rankings for this upcoming class. Obviously last year didn't go too well. I had Justin Herbert as the fourth best quarterback, and obviously he's gone on to have his offensive rookie of the year. So I'm not the complete expert, but yeah, it's all about the NFL draft at the moment, and looking forward to how the Cincinnati Bengals are going to become the kings of the AFC within years.
Okay, I mean, it's not a spoiler to say, but surely Trevor Lawrence tops the list or will top the list of upcoming quarterbacks. No.
Yeah, I'm doing my official quarterback rankings on this week's podcast, and I've got my top 7 ranked now. I'm going to go through the lower guys in a couple of weeks just to kind of shake them out. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence is clearly the number one prospect. He's absolutely going to go number one. If anyone even says that he's just ignore it. There's no conversation. It's just happening. He's easily the best prospect in this class, easily, and probably the best prospect in quite a while, probably since 2012 and Andrew Luck. He's that good.
Am I right? And you guys will correct me in this. Jacksonville, the number one pick, don't they? So we presume he'll be in Jacksonville for the next 3 or 4 years.
And it is absolutely, I mean, I really feel for the guy because you are the best prospect to come out of college football in 8 years, and you have to go to Jacksonville of all places. I really feel for the guy. I'm really hoping that he's going to team up with Urban Meyer there, who's the former Ohio State coach. He's kind of like a college football super coach coming into the NFL. And Urban Meyer will not stick around for more than 4 or 5 years, I reckon. So I think my big hope is that he stays there for 4 years, wins a championship, and then the Khan family, as they've always wanted to, move the Jaguars over to London with Trevor Lawrence as quarterback, which would be insane. So that's the dream. But yeah, he's great. The Jaguars are going to be really good very soon.
I hope so. Otherwise, we'll have to watch Jake Luton or Mike Glennon in Wembley or the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, chucking it up there to DJ Chark.
No. Anyone but Jake Luton.
I think I might stay a Seahawks fan at that point.
Oh man. Anyway, enough about talking. I mean, the Jaguars. Enough about the Jaguars. We'll talk about the 2 teams that have obviously cleared every hurdle to make the Super Bowl, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Whoa, that was a bit of a mouthful. Who are playing on Sunday in Tampa Bay itself, which is why I've sort of worn a tropical shirt, because normally, obviously, a lot of fans would be pretty excited about going down south for the Super Bowl. Unlike, say, if it was, I don't know, in Minnesota or something. But lo and behold, there'll be a limited fan attendance at the game itself. I mean, Jack, you sort of alluded to it. You predicted these 2 teams would make it to the end. Ed, I can't remember when we had you on for the start of the season. I can't remember if you predicted these 2 teams either.
I can't remember either. I know I had the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but I think I might have had the Packers or the Saints instead of the Bucks. But
yeah, I mean, Curtis, obviously we discussed the conference finals in depth the last time we had you on a couple of weeks ago. I mean, these were the 2 teams you picked to win each game. So let's talk about those results. I know it's been a week, so it's been a fair bit of time's passed, but I mean, one was obviously a close game, the Packers Buccaneers, and it was close as we thought it was going to be. There was obviously a big decision made by Matt LaFleur that attracted a lot of controversy after the game. And then in the other game, we saw, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs just proved time again that to the league that they are one of, if not the best team in the sport. Yeah,
definitely. I think especially the Packers-Bucks game was sort of reminiscent of the fixture they had early in the year. And I think those linebackers in particular for the Buccaneers had a fantastic game. I think Devin White really proved himself to be one of the best inside linebackers in the league. I think Shaq Barrett had a fantastic game too. It was sort of a case of bottling up the running game, I thought, for the Bucks, and they managed to do that really successfully against the Packers. And yeah, like you say, the Chiefs game was sort of a little bit more expected, but I think it was sad to see Josh Allen go out like that, given the season he's had. I think he's been a fantastic quarterback all season, but you know, the Chiefs just had a bit too much for them.
Yeah, and you know, Ed, Jack, it's been a while since we've had you on, so I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts were on the 2 games. We'll start with Jack. I mean, again, you predicted these 2 teams from the very start of the season, but still pretty entertaining games, all said was done, and both of them arguably shootouts and kind of you know, a case of which offense was going to have more firepower than the other.
Yeah, I think as with the NFL playoffs almost every year, once you get rid of, Washington football team and all of the people who just seem to have scraped their way in, it really comes down to who can last like the absolute longest they can in the season. Not even necessarily the best teams. I had it in my book that the Packers were better than the Bucs going into that final game. But as you see, the Bucs just managed to last out longer. Tom Brady used all of his experience that he's had from years and years of playing in the NFL to just dominate the game, really. And I think it just goes to show that you need a lot of stamina to fully play all the way through the playoffs in the NFL.
Yeah, and finally, Ed, I turn to you. Again, I'm just wondering what your thoughts were on the two games. Whether were they the expected results? Who kind of came out to show? What were your initial thoughts on both results?
Yeah, the Chiefs Bills one. I was really sad about the Bills not putting up a great deal of a fight, but I think it was kind of to be expected. The Bills' defense has taken a bit of a step back this year, and nobody's stopping the Chiefs anyway. But Kansas City have the best pass defense in the playoffs, and the Bills are just pass. They don't have an effective run game at the moment, so it was kind of to be expected. But I was a bit disappointed in the way that the Bills were, very conservative. They kicked field goals when they probably should have gone for it on fourth down, and I think they wanted to make the score respectable and keep it close and keep it within two scores. When really, you kind of have to accept that you might lose by 20, 30 points against the Chiefs, but by doing so, by risking it on fourth down, by really going for it, you give yourself a chance to win. So it's disappointing on that front, but look, the Chiefs were just a perfect matchup. They obviously have been afraid of that Bills offense, which can be very explosive, but they back themselves to defend the pass, and they back themselves against any defense. With the Bucs and Packers, that was just, I thought the Packers were, the better team going in. I thought they'd win it. I always talk about, I think a lot of people talk about the fact that beyond anything in the NFL, quarterbacks matter. Well, this game they kind of didn't. Rodgers played incredibly well. He had one interception because his receivers are awful, and then Tom Brady just threw pick after pick in the second half, and still the Bucs came out on top. I think I wasn't so bothered about the play call by Matt LaFleur at that point. I personally would have gone for it in fourth down, given Rodgers the ball, but they still had to stop the Bucs anyway. So, I don't necessarily mind them taking the points. The main issue is the fact that they didn't draft any receivers or any, good corners in last year's draft. And you look at what the Bucs were able to do is they had 5 or 6 incredible receivers. And one of them, Scotty Miller, who went under the radar, torched the Green Bay secondary at the end of the first half. And they kept making plays. So, yeah, I was disappointed in Green Bay this year, purely because I thought they had a really bad draft. And you could just see that they didn't have the depth at the two positions that really, really matter beyond quarterback. It was quarterback, which is wide receiver and corner. They don't have the depth that the Bucs did. The Bucs secondary held up pretty well. The Packers secondary didn't. And then the wide receivers, the Bucs just made plays for Tom Brady. So, yeah, it was disappointing. I really thought the Packers had it this year. I really thought they did. And I was really shocked at the result. But yeah, the Bucs defended the run really well, which is important against a LaFleur scheme. And then they just had more firepower, which is sad because Aaron Rodgers was by far the better quarterback on the day. But yeah, there you go. The Bucs had their game plan. They stuck to it, and they just about scraped through.
Yeah, it does feel like that. And obviously, talk about a close Packers defeat to a Super Bowl obviously leads to a circus of Aaron Rodgers speculation on his future, inevitably. Who knows, what will happen. I feel like it's going to be nothing, to be honest, but inevitably that is. Yeah.
That's what he wants them to. He wants them to admit he wants them to come in with their tails between their legs. Say, Aaron, sorry, we made a mistake. We'll pay you $5 million more a year if you'll stay for the next 4 years. Aaron Rodgers is going absolutely nowhere. I only see it, if his contract comes to an end in 2 or 3 years, maybe that he moves on and to play his final year in California or something because he wants to play in good weather and play at home. But he's going nowhere right now.
Yeah, and actually, Curtis, we'll move on to the two teams who are playing on Sunday, obviously, but I am interested to hear from you. Do you feel like, given Rodgers' age at the moment, he doesn't have too many good years left in him, or someone would think? sort of citing the Max Kellerman cliff theory here. Do we feel like this was one of the best chances he'll have of making and winning a Super Bowl remaining in his career, or do we feel like next year the Packers will remain a contender, and who knows for how long as well?
I mean, yeah, it's an interesting point, and I think it depends on what happens with the team around him, definitely. As Ed alluded to, their draft wasn't the best draft in the world, and I think they'll really need to notch up their 2021 draft coming up in order to stand any chance. And I think this Packers team is getting better. They were better this year than they were in 2019, so I can see improvement. But like I say, you can't rely on Aaron Rodgers to keep on making those spectacular plays when he's getting older. I mean, Tom Brady is very old for a Super Bowl quarterback, and we can only hope that Aaron Rodgers can make it to that age playing in the NFL, but he can't be playing at that age and still scrambling for his life, sort of running and throwing the ball everywhere, because he needs a system which can sustain him and sustain a team which has an aging quarterback in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see in the offseason whether they try and address those needs, as Ed sort of alluded to. But we'll move on to the big game on Sunday. And for the casual NFL fans, I'll just quickly get this out the way. The Weeknd's doing the halftime show. So if you're a fan of his, you can wait for you can wait till halftime for that. And as for Super Bowl ads, I don't know. Apparently there'll be fewer Super Bowl ads, so that's not that fun either, or trailers for that such anyway. But getting all that sort of stuff out the way and focusing on the action on the field, Jack, I mean, the biggest narrative that's been coming into this, and the unavoidable one, is that it is sort of Jedi Master against Padawan, Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. Sort of the aging star has been at the top of the game for so long against the guy who's probably going to do so over the next 9 or 10 years on his, or however long his Kansas City contract is. It might be lifetime for all I know. It's those two that we all really want to see, isn't it? That kind of battle between those two great offensive minds and how they kind of utilize the players around them.
Yeah, I think this is like clearly the most important part of this game is going to be how the quarterbacks match up against each other, as it is with so many games in the NFL. But I think what's important to note here is Brady and Mahomes are very different quarterbacks. So Brady has always been in this kind of gunslingy offense. Even when he was in New England, it's always been quite similar for him. But Mahomes is a lot more of a scrambler and improviser, moving people around him, changing up the plays on the fly. So I think it's very different kind of ethos of how the game is played between the two quarterbacks here. And I think that'd be really interesting to see how it plays out. I think that Mahomes has a lot more experience than perhaps the narrative is giving him credit for. He has literally just won a Super Bowl. This is his second appearance in a Super Bowl in a row. So I don't think he's any stranger to what's needed to play a Super Bowl. But obviously Brady isn't either, having been to so many at this point.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that is sort of what it's been hyped up to be, and certainly sort of the eyes of the sport on these two men. And Curtis, they come in with pretty excellent form. Obviously, Brady had some hiccups throughout the regular season, but as we sort of alluded to a couple of weeks ago, the Buccaneers are sort of rounding into excellent form. And we know, I mean, the Chiefs, I think we all know they can turn it on when they can. And given that Mahomes seemed to have he had a bit of a knock, didn't he, going into that Bills game, but clearly it wasn't affecting him too much. It should be all systems go for what could be an offensive shootout, if I'm not right.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we've seen cagey Super Bowls. We saw the Rams Patriots, but hopefully it's nothing like that. I could see both teams scoring 20 plus points, really. And yeah, as you say, Mahomes should be fine for the game. And I think Brady will be fantastic too, despite, the second half against the Packers game where he looked a bit shakier, threw a few contested balls which got picked off. But in reality, I think both players will be up for the fixture, especially given the size of it.
Yeah, and actually, Ed, I mean, it feels like a given that both quarterbacks are going to do really well. So then I guess when you think about it, then it comes down to the players around each quarterback. I mean, I guess which sort of receiving core is going to outdo the other, be it on the Buccaneers side with Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, who's had a few drops here or there recently, Mike Evans, Scotty Miller, as you said, even the Gronk maybe, up against sort of the Chiefs of Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, obviously, and I mean, it does feel like, and Travis Kelce, it does feel like a lot of focus will have to be on the receiving core to ensure, because we also, as I said, we also feel like the quarterback's going to excel. I guess then the spotlight goes on the receiving core and how they kind of cope with the pressure and the occasion.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just about the offense as a whole. I think taking Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady out of it, because they are, sensational talents. I think this is very much kind of an offense versus an offense in terms of, just in this game, it's all about the scheme. And you've got this Bruce Arians kind of 90s Neanderthal, run it down the middle, and then Tom Brady and ask Tom Brady to throw it down the field and see what happens for offense, versus Andy Reid doing all of this crazy stuff with the most talented quarterback to ever play the game. And I think that kind of offensive scheme part of it is super important. Because obviously, Kansas City are going to put up points. The Bucs are great against defending the run, but they have a relatively young and inexperienced secondary, which will give up points. I think it's all about how the Bucs operate against a Chiefs defense that will just let them run the ball. If the Bucs hand it off to Leonard Fournette 30 times in this game, the Chiefs will be delighted. I think it's really about how the Bucs and Bruce Arians approaches this, whether he's going to commit to the run and just take deep shots, or whether he's going to adapt and try and take advantage over the middle of the field. Because I think that's where the Chiefs' kind of weakness lies. And they don't have an exciting pass rush. Keep Tom Brady in the pocket and keep taking those slant routes, those routes over the top of the linebackers. I think that's where you can hurt them. But if you do take deep shots, suddenly you're putting yourself up against a really good secondary, a really good pass defense. And if you do just run it twice, give it to Tom Brady, throw it down the field, it might work against the Packers when they're doing zero blitzes for no reasons and don't have the corners. But the Chiefs will take advantage. So for me, it's all about the Arians scheme, whether he can and Brady can produce a game plan that isn't just chucking it deep and hoping for the best, but is actually an offense that will be efficient and can move the ball up the field with a bit more fluidity rather than just deep shots. Because that for me is the key. Because if the Chiefs can stop the deep passing game, it could get ugly. So it's all about manufacturing a passing game, getting people in space, and just trying to take the opportunities underneath, rather than just taking deep shots.
Yeah, and Curtis, as Ed sort of alludes to, the rush game is going to be very interesting. And of course, these are two teams that have kind of used their running backs by committee, whether it's on the Chiefs side, Clyde Edwards-Helaire seemingly had the starting role before the Le'Veon Bell trade, and now it's sort of 1A, 1B. And if you look at the Buccaneers side, it's the same with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones Jr. kind of trading off who gets the majority of the run. Do you expect any changes there for this game, or do you will one from each team sort of take the majority of snaps, or do we still feel like they will operate on a kind of committee basis, just based on the game script? Should the passing games for both sides sort of start to go sour?
Yeah, I think it would, as you say, I think it will stick to a running back committee. I can't see that changing at all. I mean, it's not broke, so don't fix it, really. And I think it's a reflection of a wide league change in the sense that the value of a running back is going down a lot, and injuries have hit the position quite a lot as well. And so it's effective to have a running back committee where different players have different skills and you can bring them on for different reasons. It's sort of a good way of deceiving the defense, if anything else, to be honest.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot of offense. Jack, I did want to ask you about defense. Is there anything you're looking forward to from either side? I mean, both sides. They're good defensively. I don't know if they're elite defensively. Maybe you think they are. But what are you looking forward to on the defensive end from both sides?
I don't know if they're elite necessarily. I think there's a lot of key star players here. Players like Levante David or Tyrann Mathieu are absolutely incredible at what they do. I think the Chiefs are going to be sending a lot of pressure at Tom Brady. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of blitzes. And to be honest, I've never been more excited to watch Tom Brady get put in the ground. So I'm all for that. But I think maybe the defenses will definitely play a part in this game. You know what they say, offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. But I don't think that in this case, either of these defenses are better than their respective offenses. So we got a few elite players, but maybe not dominating the game in the same way.
Yeah, and just I'll turn to you, Ed. I mean, is there anything else we haven't mentioned yet that you're looking forward to heading into the Super Bowl on Sunday? And we might have lost Ed. I am waiting to see. Right, let me. I'll bring him back in a bit and get his answers on those fields. But I think we might have got him back. There we go. Yeah, we've got you back, Ed. Did you hear? I mean, I just asked you. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you're looking forward to on Sunday? Or not. We will again. He's keeping us in suspense. I guess the only real thing we have to cover left, I guess, are predictions. And full disclosure, we are a pretty neutral panel. I would say Jack and I are Seahawks fans. Curtis is a Cardinals fan. Ed's obviously stated he's a Bengals fan. So none of us have any allegiances to the two teams playing on Sunday, which is great. Curtis, I turn to you first. Who do you feel like will win it? And is there a particular player who you think will step up to the occasion on Sunday?
It's funny you mentioned not having any allegiances because actually I'm a secret Bucs backer at the moment, given that Bruce Arians was a former Cardinals coach. Todd Bowles, their defensive coordinator, was a former Cardinals coach as well. But I'm going with the Chiefs here. I think the Chiefs will have too much for them, and I think Tyreek Hill will be the standout player. Given what happened in the regular season when Tyreek Hill burned that secondary and just destroyed Carlton Davis, I think that will be a similar situation, really.
Yes, and it'll be interesting to see secret Bucks follow. Is it just for the playoffs, or just because the Cardinals didn't make it, by the way, or just purely Bruce Arians love? Yeah, okay. Jack, any thoughts? Who do you think? Who are you tipping to win?
I think this is really tough. I think the Buccaneers are really interesting. They've managed to do what everyone's always wanted to do, which is like they've gone onto Madden and just changed the roster so they could have all the players they wanted, having Brady and Gronk and Lavonte David and Mike Evans and all of that. It's like they kind of cheated the system a bit. And I'm also still not happy about Tom Brady deflating balls and denying the Seahawks a true dynasty. But all of that aside, I think this will be a close game. I think this will be a proper classic Super Bowl. I think this will be one that gets talked about for years on end afterwards. I'm putting Chiefs to win and 30-27.
There we go. I will step in and say I do think the Chiefs will edge it. Honestly, it could be each team has 3 or 4 touchdowns apiece. That's how dynamic these offenses are, and so I think the Chiefs will get it, and Mahomes will probably win MVP just because he probably will, and so I'm just waiting to see. I think we've got Ed back, so I'm just waiting. Let's see, Eddie, have we got you again?
That should be better. I've had to move. I think my Wi-Fi died, but there you go.
No worries. I I'd asked, was there anything else we hadn't mentioned that you were looking forward to Sunday? And if not, predictions. What are you expecting?
Well, the one thing I am really disappointed about is obviously it's a home Super Bowl for Tampa Bay, and the best thing about the Tampa Bay Stadium is they have a pirate ship in it, which fires off cannons after big plays. But the NFL have decided that it's too much of a home advantage for the cannons to go off, so there will be no cannons at the Super Bowl, which is really, I think it's disgusting, because I think if you have a Super Bowl a stadium that has a pirate ship that shoots cannons and you're not going to use it, then for me that's a sackable offence for the commissioner, Roger Goodell. But I think in terms of prediction, I think the Chiefs are going to win it. I just think that they've got too much on offense, and I think this is quite a good matchup for them. The one issue I think that we could see Tampa Bay really good is the offensive line of the Chiefs is really struggling with injuries. And while Patrick Mahomes is, he's athletic and get out of the pocket, likes of Shaq Barrett and, you got Devin White coming on the blitz and stuff. There's going to be issues there for the Chiefs. So if the Bucs can overload the Chiefs offensive line with pressure a lot and Mahomes can't get the ball out of his hands quick, then they have a chance. But I still think the Chiefs have enough, and I would back them by, I reckon, 10 points. Is my Wi-Fi gone again?
I think it might be Josh's Wi-Fi this time.
Oh no! Well, I'm stuck on this stream now. Well, I don't know, I can give you a tour of this bedroom, but other than that, I haven't got much to say. There we are.
And okay, I am waiting to see if this works.
Well, let's start talking about something else. Great.
I wanted to extend on what you said. I think that there are lots of reasons to sack Roger Goodell, but if he did get sacked, I fully think that they should put the cannons as the only reason.
There we go.
The
Am I back?
cannons is the reason.
I think
the
I'm
cannons
back.
is the reason. If you have a Super Bowl and don't use cannons, it doesn't make any sense. And I don't care about it being like the home advantage stick. You have cannons, use them. And honestly, this is much more important to me than any other part of the Super Bowl. Like genuinely, it drives me insane. But what can you do until Josh gets back? Gosh, have you both made your Super Bowl predictions?
We have, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
We're both Chiefs, yeah.
There. Well, I mean, everyone should be the Chiefs, but we could talk about the Stafford Goff trade. I think Josh had that on there. Obviously, the Rams sent 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and Jared Goff to the Lions for Matthew Stafford. Jack, what do you make of it?
It's not just me, right? The Rams have been completely mugged off here, right? They've just lost so much for Matt Stafford. I can't remember the last time I heard Matt Stafford doing anything good. Admittedly, he has been trapped in Detroit, which, as we all know, is a hellhole when it comes to playing in the NFL. Only second to Cleveland in places to not be able to win. But I think that they've gone way overboard on trying to get rid of Goff. Come on.
Curtis, what have you got on this? Because I have a big take, and I'm going to hold off.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can see somewhat of the rationale in the sense that I think they've given up so much because they paid Goff a stupid amount of money, and they need another team to take the contract, and I think that's part of it. But at the same time, I think it was just a ridiculous amount to give up for Stafford, and I think it sort of leaves it up in the air of what Deshaun Watson is going to be worth now, because if you're giving up that much for Stafford, I'm just questioning what Houston are going to ask for now for Deshaun Watson, who is a better quarterback and much younger.
Yeah, this is the thing. I think the Texans are going to be much happier with Deshaun Watson. I'd say that the big thing here is that the first of next year's draft and the third are probably for Matt Stafford, and the first round pick is to chuck Jared Goff out and send him to Detroit. I'm going to stick my oar in and say I think this is a great deal for the Rams and a great deal for the Lions. Matthew Stafford was done in Detroit. I think it was a good time for him to move on. I'm very much a Stafford apologist, so I come at this from that angle. But I think it's a great deal for both teams. The Lions don't care about the cap hit of Jared Goff, really, and they could do with a bridge quarterback, and they could do with a bridge quarterback who isn't good enough to make them good next year. They don't want to be good next year. I think they're probably favourites for the number 1 pick next year. So having a guy like Goff and getting 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick to build, I think is good for them. In terms of the Rams, Jared Goff wasn't a disaster for them. I think he was 20th in PFF grade this year. He was a top 20 quarterback. But a guy like Matt Stafford could put you in the top 10. I think he's probably going to be a top 8 quarterback next year. And I think that could elevate the Rams a lot. And given they don't care about first-round picks, I think this is actually a really good move for them. McVay was done with Goff. I think Stafford is the kind of guy who will work hard, learn the system, and he fits what McVay wants. McVay wants to take more deep shots, and Stafford throws a great deep ball. So I think it's a really, really good deal for the Rams. Obviously, we'll see how it works, but I think Stafford's athleticism and deep balls, arm strength and accuracy could be a really good fit for this scheme. So I personally love it, but I know people will say, how are you sending 2 first and a third and Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford, and what the hell does this mean for Deshaun Watson, who by this would probably be worth 4 first-rounders and 2 of your best starters?
Yeah, I've just got a question for you, Ed. being a draft expert coming up, I'm wondering what you think the Detroit Lions are going to do now, given that they've got Jared Goff. Do you think they'll go quarterback still, or?
I personally don't think they should. This is a historic quarterback class. The top 4 guys, Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance, are all really good. They're all of their ceilings are in the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. However, I think given they're drafting at 7, they'd have to trade a lot of picks to get one of Wilson or Fields, who are probably going to be the quarterback 2nd and 3rd taken off the board. And I don't think sending a guy like Trey Lance, who's a prospect from North Dakota State, which is a really, really small school, who has like 17 college starts, however good Lance is, and I think Lance is the 3rd best quarterback in the draft, I don't think it's a good fit for him to develop. There's no quarterback to learn behind because Jared Goff is just a system guy. They don't necessarily have a great offensive mind for him to learn from. If I was the Lions, I would trade back or take a receiver if like Devonta Smith or Jalen Waddle is there. And then if you're going to get the number 1 overall pick next year, you take the best quarterback, because even though the quarterback class next year isn't that good, you would potentially be in the race for Spencer Rattler, the Oklahoma quarterback, who's insane. So I personally, if I was the Lions, I would trade back, get some draft capital, build a bit of a structure around Goff, and then get your quarterback. But I wouldn't necessarily hate it if Lance fell to them. But I would personally wait. But, it's kind of tossing a coin, really.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like how you mentioned Spencer Rattler, because he was on QB1 recently, wasn't he? And don't they have a track record of ruining quarterbacks?
Yeah, they could do that. They had Justin Fields in there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they had. They've had a couple of guys. One who went to Iowa State and had to transfer to Temple. But yeah, no, I love Spencer Rattler. I think he's really good. And there's the quarterback class next year isn't great. You've got Spencer Rattler, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, and Brock Purdy. It's not overly exciting. But if you're the Lions, you are going to be rubbish. So you may as well commit to it. And Rattler's probably, he'd be in this top 4 quarterback anyway. So I would be of the opinion that you wait a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, we talked about this a bit, but obviously Stafford and Goff are irrelevant compared to Deshaun Watson, who is the biggest story in this whole offseason. Curtis, how many first-round picks are you giving up if you were any team in the world for Deshaun Watson?
Oh, well, I'm giving up 10 at the rate that Matt Stafford's gone for. But yeah, no, seriously, I would trade my starting quarterback probably if he's worse than Deshaun Watson, and I'd give a couple of firsts probably. What about you, Jack? What are your thoughts?
Well, when you say if your starting quarterback is worse than Deshaun Watson leads the league in passing yards this season, despite being on the Texans. So I think he actually dominates the majority of the quarterbacks in the league. I don't think there's a team off the top of my head outside of maybe, the Buccaneers and the Chiefs right now who couldn't do with a Deshaun Watson in their team, honestly. So I think he should be. He's going somewhere great, and there's a lot going for him.
Yeah, I would also. I think the only 2 starters in the league who are arguably better than Deshaun Watson at this point is Rodgers and Mahomes. So you'd love to go anywhere. There's a lot of Raiders talk, but I don't think that's going to happen because Derek Carr would have to be part of the package. And if you'll remember, his brother was the franchise quarterback in Houston for 4 years and was really bad. So there is no way they're taking Derek Carr. You can't take the old guy's brother. You can't date your ex's brother, so it's not going to work there. But yeah, I think Deshaun Watson is just probably he's the 2nd best quarterback in the league at this point, and playing for a team who are, if they didn't have him, wouldn't have won the game. So I'd be throwing everything at him. I really like Miami as a destination personally, but I prefer the Raiders to maybe take one in the draft because I don't think they have the same ammunition as Miami. But we'll have to see. It's kind of all up in the air. No one knows what's really going to happen. Josh, I think you're back.
Can I just check? Am I back?
You are back.
Yay! Okay, this is good, and totally not
you will
surprising.
Probably have to edit
this is
out
not surprising
Ed's
on my part. Oh, it's fine. I'll keep it. It's a Raw Sports staple. I'll keep this in. I just quickly. Yeah, you guys covered the Stafford Goff trade. I think it's an interesting one. And the Watson's, and we'll see what happens with Watson. I'm just checking. Yeah, I am back, aren't I? Yeah, I'm just checking. This thing just plays with me, it just glitches every now and then. I just go, okay. I don't know much else. I mean, I don't know if there's been any other key off-season ads that Ed or Jack, if that's taken your, is there any that you've sort of keyed in on as possibly important than the upcoming season? I'll kick it off with Jack.
I think Ed mentioned about the Raiders and Derek Carr briefly. I don't think that the Raiders need to do anything with Derek Carr. I think he's a good. I think he's good where he is. I think he's actually quite a good quarterback in my opinion. I think he's maybe perhaps in a bad team, but just like Matt Stafford, bad teams can get better, and I don't think that Derek Carr is at the root of the Raiders' problem. So I think if the Raiders can keep Derek Carr and maybe get a good receiving core around him, get a better defense in general, I think Derek Carr will actually be just fine where he is.
Yeah. I mean, on that point, I would agree. I think Derek Carr this year has probably been a top 10 quarterback. He's been very good. He's not the issue for the Raiders. What I would say is that I think when you're in a division with Justin Herbert, you're in a division with a Broncos team who, if they had a quarterback, would be really good. And you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes, you might need to shoot a bit higher than Derek Carr. And if, say, you were to trade Derek Carr away and get some draft capital, then move up in the draft and take a rookie quarterback, you could play them behind Marcus Mariota, who's still on the roster for another year, and is by himself a perfectly serviceable NFL quarterback. So I think on that logic, you could shoot for the moon if someone was to say offer you a first and second round pick for Derek Carr, because whilst Carr is good, he's good enough. If someone was offering you a couple of first rounders or a big draft capital for him, I might take the risk, because otherwise you could be stuck with a guy who's good, but not quite good enough to elevate you beyond the Patrick Mahomes.
I think that's a reasonable point.
It's debatable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I reckon if you were to get rid of Derek Carr, I would be looking to draft running backs over quarterbacks, I would say.
Potentially.
Yeah,
potentially.
It'll be a very chaotic offseason. It'll be a very chaotic offseason for sure. I feel like we need to end this now before I sort of glitch out. The final thing I'll add is on the subject of the Tampa Bay pirate ship not being able to be heard. My favorite thing was the Nickelodeon coverage of one of these playoff games. I want to see more green slime. I want to see more. I want more. I want Nickelodeon to just be a broadcasting partner of the NFL now. That's all I want.
They should be. The World Cup. Do you remember the World Cup? The FIFA World Cup is always done on CBBS as well, or CBBC as well as BBC. They have Hacker T Dog doing the commentary. I don't know if it's still happening now. That was happening like when I was younger. I feel they should do the same for the Super Bowl on Nickelodeon. That'd be great.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I mean, they might have to change the halftime show given the halftime show last year.
Yes. I know they could just play that clip from SpongeBob where they do that massive concert.
I would love to see that. But anyway, we should end it now before. Yeah.
Josh is gone.
An abrupt ending, to say the least.
I think we should go. Cut. There we are. Right. I think you're back, Josh.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Right. I think we'll call it there. Oh no. Am I back?
Yeah, I can see you. Yeah. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Am I back? Okay, right. All of this just to say we're going to end this now. Thank you so much for coming on, you three. It's been amazing to have you on. Enjoy Sunday. This is going to be, oh my.
Should we just do a chorus of byes? Bye, everyone.
Okay. Let's just, we'll end it here. All right. Thank you. Oh my God. Am I back?
Yeah, just keep talking.
Okay.
Just keep talking.
I think I'm going to call this. just gonna call this the "Am I Back" show. That's what this is. What the NFL Super Bowl special became, the "Am I Back" show. Right, let's just call it here. Thank you guys so much for coming on, and we will be back with another Raw Sports show at some point soon when all tech issues are resolved.